You had to check out the toilets, didn't you?
At 2:30 here, Chris, all things technology. And when he's not looking, not when he's not looking, self to the table of employees. Yeah.
At 2:46, right?
They just think like the first month, people were on it like crazy. Now we just talk about bullshit, and not even a lot, like infrequent bullshit messages.
Isn't that what happens with email lists and stuff?
Yeah. Look at text notes. There's one email every.
Oh, you put it in? I thought you put it in.
Yeah, she put it in there.
All the way on the other side. Gents? I'm gonna make a quick run. I'll be right back.
Acrylic or something. No tray to put on there. Or kept on the desk. Alright.
Hey. What's that? Like my home with my kids. It just gets worse. They get a little bit smarter. And the story you have to tell them. Well, we're pretty close to 2:30, so we'll get started. I don't want to cover everything as much as we can. It'll be really random, a lot of odds and ends. I think where I am, I'm in a unique situation at UT because my office, I have a 3D printer, a soldering iron, and all kinds of electronics and stuff. They allow me to play and do stuff. I asked Chris, actually, I'm Chris Bombardo, Director of Technology at University of Tennessee, and then I asked Chris to come up to make sure I stay on track and fill in a lot of blanks that I miss and talk about some of the support and stuff they do because they're going through a change in support. So we're going to try to cover a little bit about all law school technology and let you guys, there's options in here that we can do different things and kind of see what the audience would like to do. So we'll give it a shot and see what happens. The way I break down technology is 4 things. We have our standard PC shop, I call it PC repair shop. Setup, repair, basic maintenance and stuff like that. We have the teaching technology that faculty take control, teaching. You may have somebody that helps them out, but a lot of times technology is not as involved. We'll introduce it, but they often run it right and we'll support it. We don't get involved in that. Then we have our classroom technology, and that I don't really think has changed in 10 years. We're still using projectors, PowerPoint, and basic stuff, microphones, but it's not substantially different than it was 10 years ago. It may have got newer, brighter, and high resolution. Where I like to play, and a lot of stuff that I do, is what I call the innovative technology. It's substantially different. It's stuff that we can't find on the market, so we try to build it specifically for our school, or stuff that we don't see other people using, or that's new that we get to play with a little bit. So we'll talk about the other things briefly, but most of the time we're going to really talk about innovative technology. You want to talk about the standard technology stuff?
Our school, Mercer, is actually, we've always had a laptop program for students. This year, they did away with it. So every student in the past got a laptop. In the past 2 years, we've had an opt-out program where, if they wanted to use Mac or wherever, they could opt out. So now we're trying to figure out what do we go from here? Because pretty much the students are covered technology-wise as of last year, because the laptops we gave them and covered it. So if they cracked a screen or needed help with anything, we could fix that. So where do we go from here? Obviously, we can't do everything for them anymore, And there's all kinds of other stuff, like how long do we work on a student's laptop? Because we still want to provide some level of service for a student. We just don't want to be like, no, we can't touch your computer.
So at UT, we're pretty easy. That we'll do what we can. We hook them up to their services and stuff, but their laptop is their device. We'll refer them to places where they can get their personal laptop thing, but we don't mess with the hardware and stuff. At Mercer, they did it all. They did everything before, and that's a changing thing that they're currently battling. Even who still hosts their own email that doesn't use a cloud server? Is anybody still hosting their own? There's still a few holdouts, but I think most schools are moving to hosting. To me, these services, as much as I can, I like to hand them off. They're day-to-day services, they're repetition, doing the same thing over and over. And if I don't have to do them, then I can spend more time on innovative stuff. Our network, our university does. Our webpage, we do have a web person in there, but we use them for a lot of other things. Our servers, we're down to 2 servers. We've gotten rid of almost all of them. If I can hand these off, and if they can do it to our standards, so that's one big catch. That is a big catch. Fortunately, UT does very well. I have no complaints about our university's IT. They can do everything. They're really good at it, and they'll do what we ask them to. Teaching technologies. These are things that faculty really dabble in. We'll demonstrate them to me, I think. We'll do little things. I like the new name, edutainment games, that I think Microsoft, their group, is trying to do it because they're trying to push Minecraft into classrooms for K through 12. The teaching through Minecraft, the CALI lessons, all kinds of things that are little games that students can play outside of the classroom, the whole flipped classroom policy. And we see animations, but these are really things that I think faculty bring to us often, or we'll give it to faculty and let the faculty really explore. Because we're not in the classroom, to me. We don't know how the students are reacting with this. I think the faculty, we should support them, give them guidance, help them set it up, but they really got to determine what works and what doesn't work, and not the IT people, because they're the ones that have to teach it, use it, and stuff like that. So can be a fun technology, but it is really something that I believe faculty should control and not necessarily us.
Yeah, it's the same way with us. I mean, we have a very kind of hands-off with what teachers use. I mean, we have a portal they could use, but they choose whatever they want to use technology-wise to use in the class. We don't force them into anything.
Classroom technology, we just started taking more control over this over at UT. But again, I think we're supporting it because it doesn't substantially change. We may install new projectors, the podiums, update that and stuff, but there's nothing that's substantially different. Does anybody feel different than that technology?
Well, we're not though.
Yeah, it being the cameras in the system and stuff. Are you doing that in every classroom?
Yep.
See, we're not recording in classrooms really, unless we have a 6th student or something like that. And I think that's an up and down between law schools. Some want it, some require it, some,
Well, I say
yeah.
for
Yeah.
classes.
And we have 2 rooms with media site, but they're really used on request, and it's only when there's a special case. And then it really comes down to the faculty, if they want to record or not, and they make that decision. And if we don't, we take a camera down there. But it hasn't substantially changed. I mean, we still have cameras in the classroom. There's no new technology, we're just using it in a different way for recording stuff. Now, I think we used the video substantially different. Instead of passing a file, we can load them in portals, comment, and stuff like that on it. But in the classroom, it still hasn't substantially changed. We've tried stuff, smart boards, they've come and gone and stuff like that. Now, this is my wheelhouse. This is where I like doing stuff. This is kind of where I play around. Last year, I presented with the digital signage. I think we've done a lot of digital signage. Tom's done digital signage. A lot of people. Ours are all on Raspberry Pis. And we have a whole table of stuff up here to look at. We'll stop early for we can come look at it, ask any questions or and stuff like that, and we'll try to explain some of it. But this is how my office desk would look too. We're always trying new things, and I'll tell you some of the stuff that we're trying and what we're doing. So digital signage is one that we've done. We do Raspberry Pi. We did iBeacon in it, so when you walk by the sign, it would push to your phones if you run the app and stuff. But Apple's pretty much killed iBeacon now. They've taken it out of all their stores, and iBeacon is kind of fading away. So I don't know. We probably won't support it much longer. We'll probably look at what we want to do if we want to communicate through the signs through another way, or just I'm not sure yet. We're looking at it. But the digital sign's fun. There's actually a lot more you can do than just putting up a sign. The touch. We have trivia games on ours about the law school that they get to click through, and we had a faculty member. He's actually most famous for it. He was blind, and he's the only faculty member with a hole-in-one. So we got a little trivia like that on there. And people like that. We see that our digital signs actually get played more with the trivia than they use directories or anything else in the law school. Study room video camera. This has been an ongoing project. We have it up, but we're working on changing it. And I got more slides on commenting why we're going to change it and what we're going to go through. We have a portal. It's just to consolidate that, and we're going to talk a lot about the portal. And the portal, to me, is one of the things we're looking at is data in the portal. What can we do with the portal and the data, which I think is going to be the next big thing in education. We're working with portal, data, library systems. We know what the students are, what they're enrolled in. Why aren't we pulling what's on reserve and showing it to them right there for the classes that they're specifically in, or that they're first year? So these are all the first year handbooks instead of making them search for it. I think we need to use the data that we have to start putting stuff right in front of them, so they don't have to do the time and effort to search it. And hopefully that'll bring them into libraries and keep them in the school more. And the jury sliders is one of my projects. It's probably the biggest scope project I ever had that started out really small and has grown and grown over time. And I've been working on it probably for 4 years on and off. And I had it down once and then completely changed it, and we'll cover some of that, why that is and what it is and how I managed to keep on working on it after 4 years for some reason. So, the questions that I always get, and I know I talk a lot more than him, and that's how
Makes it easier for me.
is How do I make time for this? So I'm still director of technology, we still have to run anything. And one of the things I do is I schedule time. So Monday morning, 9 to 10, I am gonna work on this project. And I put myself out as a meeting or something like that, and we make time. We actually schedule time to work on projects. My workers can do the same thing. They can take a session and schedule, I'm gonna work on learning SQL or something like that. But we schedule time that is just like a meeting, and we're busy during that time that we work on that project or something like that. So we try to work with each other, make sure we schedule time to work on fun projects that may or may not benefit the law school. Most of them are in the long time because we are learning skills. But we don't have to be, I'm working on this to put up here at the law school. I'm working to learn SQL because in the long term it may help the school. It'll make me more knowledgeable, but I don't use SQL necessarily on a day-to-day basis. So the biggest thing that we do is we schedule it, and I think that's the way that you have to do it. The second question I always get is how do you get support to do these projects between getting money from the dean and then getting time and stuff where they'll let you do it? I think ours has been with success of a couple projects, and I'll talk about them projects, right? We've had success where the projects worked out really well, the schools liked them, the students have really liked them. So when next time we go up, we'll ask it. That first project was a little bit more, we did it very small, one scale, showed them it could work, and then moved it up. And that first project was ID scanners in our study rooms to activate our cameras. And I think I have some of that and how we're changing that, so. Do you talk about how you,
I just kind of took over the job as system manager. I've been slowly training, because I went from student support up to system manager, so I've been slowly taking over the servers, all that here. So how I handle it is we hire undergrads that are in IT. We usually get about 1 or 2 a semester. And what I do is I make projects, and I'll get them started usually with, like right now we're trying to do like a help desk kiosk, because we're not there past 5 usually. So we want it to do a few things, like if a student has a problem, we want to have just the frequently asked questions that they can go, hey, how do I add a printer? They can just click on this. And then, what else we got? We're trying to do a time clock for our student workers to clock in and out, because we have some issues with that. And just a few, like videos and stuff like that we would show on it. To try to get some of that stuff off the web and the server that would change. So basically, mine is kind of my job's first, and then if I get time, I give these projects to my student worker undergrads, and they do some of the work until they get caught, and then I come in and try to help them. And then when I get time, I jump in on the project. So that's pretty much mine.
okay, so this is where we have kind of slides for all these. We want to see where do we want to go? What are we currently working on? Fun projects that maybe we do outside of the law school, which this was a big fail in this presentation, and I'll explain it if we do that one. My daughter wasn't very happy about it, so we'll get to that one. Past projects that we've done, how do you prototype this stuff? Or data, talking about the data at law school is what we think data can do. So do we have any preferences where we want to go? Want to do data? Well, my guess was somebody would pick data. Because I think data is going to be a big thing. It's starting to be a big thing. We've always tried to use data in law school, but we haven't been very good at it because we don't have data people doing it. We have often law professors will pick up LSAT scores, compare them to grades, compare them to this, and say, based on this, this is what we see in the data. But they do it for 1 year often, which really doesn't have any patterns or anything like that. So I think that's one of the places that we got to look at data is saying we have a lot of data at law school, and we need to start off simple. And our simple idea that we started looking at now is the library system. Because right now, if students don't know what we have as a library service, we need to advertise to our students what we have as library services, what materials we have. We have the information, the data to identify what those students are doing, what classes they're in, what classes they're going to be enrolled in next semester, what classes they've taken, what year they are. And based on that information, we should be able to predict what data they need out of the data, out of the law school database, out of course reserves, out of books for their classes, out of extra reading material and stuff like that. But I don't know anybody that's right now taking that data and providing it in front of a student, saying, hey, based on your schedule, this is what you're gonna need this semester. And putting it right in front of them. It shouldn't be very hard to do. I don't know anybody's doing it. So that's one of the projects that we're starting to look at now, is saying, how can we pull that information and give the kids, these are the professors you have, these are their previous exams, so they don't have to look for them. So they know what exams they can look at and start looking at them earlier instead of thinking about it at exam time. So that's our first data project. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I don't know how it's gonna go, but there's a slide that I like that, and it's in here just because I like it, and I think it's how I kind of feel about data in Google. They don't care that your house is on fire, but they're ready to sell you something. They know you're gonna need a temporary place to live and a fire extinguisher. We can do the same thing for our law students with the data, is start providing them that information as soon as they need it and put it in front of them. So I think our library is a ripe source to start using that data and using it. Do we have, what do you guys think, your expectations? Do you think it would work, or is anybody doing it or anything close to that? They're putting in toilets, we think, next door. So, quiet group. So data's, and then we look at the data. So the next thing I think that I'd like to move on to is, within testing, is we always judge testing on content. And I just had a meeting with some schools in London about this, is when we look at a test, we always judge a student on what they wrote content. At no point are we testing was it their exam skills that actually took them down? How long did they spend in the question? Was question 3 not answered very well because they only wrote it for 5 minutes? So we're looking at, with a couple London schools, how do we evaluate how the student took the exam to make sure we're identifying the problems? Not that they don't know the material, but more that they don't have the testing skills to take the material. I think we start doing that in Barbary classes and stuff like that, but much later prior to law school, and I think we should be doing that at the beginning of trying to identify if there is a problem, what is it? Is it actually they're not learning content, that they aren't putting down the material fast enough, or not knowing how to organize the material? Can we identify what's actually stopping them in that path, and just automatically always assuming that they don't know the content? Because when we grade, we always assume it's because they didn't know. But organization can be a huge factor. If they don't organize it fast enough, they can mess up and do it. So with the London schools, we're looking at how can we start evaluating that and judging that to determine, is there a way we can evaluate their other skills at the same time as evaluating their content skills, or how they put the content back. So those are my big data ones. So again, I guessed, and my next thing was, then let's talk about fun projects, because data can get dull. So these, after data and stuff like that, and there'll be some data stuff in this, this is the stuff that I like to talk about. And how I ruined this whole thing was, my daughters and I have built a life-size BB-8. I don't know, has everybody seen the movie? We are big Star Wars fans. I have a 6 and 8 year old, and we all love Star Wars. We have decorated Star Wars. We do a lot of stuff Star Wars. And we watched a new movie, and we came to find out we really like BB-8. And I thought it would be a good project. Can we build BB-8? How would we build BB-8 without spending a lot of money? So we bought beach balls, and we paper machéed the beach ball to start out with. We did 3 layers of paper mache, kind of gave it a little bit of a shell. They would stop after about a half hour, 45 minutes, but then we'd have to finish them up. And we didn't do these to do perfect, because we're working together. We did this to be fun. The next is we canvas mached it to make it stiff and hard. And then we did a wood putty on it, and that way it was knocked and it could roll and stuff like that. Sanded it down. And for the head, we just bought from Michael's styrofoam ball, cut it in half, and added a little bit to the bottom, for we had a head that will stick on top. doing electronics and stuff, we want to be able to drive it. And we came up with a couple problems. How do we make the head stay on top? How do we make the head stay? And part of this is the girls are 6 and 8, so we did little electronic projects in the middle of how do you do circuits and stuff like that. But so they didn't do much of electronics. They're still trying to learn that. They're learning blocky code right now instead of this. But we did electronics for the inside. Then we've cut the ball in half and added electronics to drive it inside. It is Bluetooth, and it runs on an Arduino board, and you can control it. That was before it got cut, and this is the final, getting closer to the final product. And what we did inside was off the platform up there, we ran a bar, we put a servo motor up there, and we can turn that top little thing. Put 3 earth magnets on it. When we can seal it down, the earth magnets are strong enough that we have 3 earth magnets inside of the head with the roller balls, and it pulls the head right down to the body. When the ball spins, it goes. So the plan was, we have it duct taped right now around. We haven't sealed it, and my daughter was supposed to drive it in. She can drive it a little bit, but I forgot it. I forgot that and another bag of stuff. So she wasn't real happy, and she didn't want to come today because she didn't have nothing to do. But that was the goal with the project. So these electronics that we play with at home and stuff like that, those Arduino boards that I play with. Oh, right there. Are the same thing that we run in our law school study rooms. I presented on some of this last year, and this is what we're going to change it. So the same thing that I run my little robot on is the same thing that's in our study rooms. We've taken these and programmed them that when a student scans their ID, it talks to the server and says, is this student a student? Do they have permission to record and everything else? If the server says yes, and they can type in a time. And then the server starts catching the stream from that camera. The problem we have with this, it works, but we want to start putting these in clinic interview rooms and stuff like that. And the problem that I have with it is our network is good, but I don't want to rely on our network. We got PoE running this, PoE running that. So if our network power goes down or anything, these cameras go down. If you stop an MP4 stream, you'll have some trouble trying to recover it. So what we're going to do next, is get rid of those lines and now run Arduino is talking straight to the camera. Take the server out of the picture. Camera has an SD card. We can tell the camera when it receives a signal, start recording. We can run the cameras on regular power, put them on UPS line, and actually run the power from the camera. These run on 5 volts and run it down and run these screens. So the goal is to take the server out of the picture, take the network out of the picture. Once it's completed recording, we can, by the file name and stuff, send it up to the server based on the camera and program the camera to do it. So we can have our power cameras running without network and without power. So that's what we're doing now, but we're still going to control them with that same little Arduino board that we use in the BB-8 and that we control with that. So this is what we're currently working on this summer, and it's just for reliability that we never have to rely on our network, and we just have to have a power between these two. Additionally, we can make the camera talk to the board, so if there is a problem where the camera has a failure or anything else, we can flash the screen or something like that in the study room to let the students know, hey, stop, we're not recording, where there's an issue. So we do a lot with these Arduino boards around the school, and we have a lot of fun with them. So that was the first successful project that allowed us to buy all these little gadgets to move on to the next ones. So our next project, this is my 4-year project that I've been working on because it kept on changing, is we have the camera recording and it's going to the server. At the same time, we're trying to capture the value on the slider. So one of these little sliders right here. And we want to capture where this slider is and timestamp it exactly the same as the video when we capture that time. That way, we have an oral argument. They're watching oral arguments recording. When they watch it back, they can see what that person watching it thought. Did they like it and they're all the way down? Did they not like it and they're all the way down? So we can catch, and when I did oral arguments, what I realized was when I got feedback from our juries and stuff, it was always the last 15 minutes, the closing argument, they didn't remember any of the really much of it unless there was one point that stuck out. What I want to do is I want to see really where did we lose that jury? Where did that person turn against us? Now, we can code these when whoever has them, and we can say, this is a male, it's a female, or anything we want on it, and we can say patterns in our arguments and see if we lost students at certain times, if we lost a jury when we made a statement, if the jury came in and started liking us more, and see if it fed it all the way through. So I've had this done once as a wired project all on the same computer. We didn't like it, or it worked, but it was a hassle to run. So what is mocked up here, and this is a mock-up of it, it runs, is we have now a wireless receiver. So we can put them on the wireless network. The wireless cards on those run about $7 each. So we can buy the wireless card for this $7 each. Then we have this little screen over here. It's a 12-line little LCD screen. They're $10. And they're really easy to use. It doesn't make much coding. You can write sentences. It'll send it to them. They'll automatically throw and stuff like that. So we wanted to be able to show the value of the slider. And then we have the actual Arduino here. And this is our mock-up Arduino that we use. We always use the larger ones when we mock them up and start using them because it's just easier to work with. And that takes the data, passes it through the wireless and sends it up. And then we also bought SD cards, readers, for we can actually put the wireless information on this. So if we're jumping from one wireless to another, putting the SID and stuff, we can program it on this and stick in the cards. Then we got going and saying, well, then we need power. Then we need to make sure we can charge them if we put them in thing. I have a 3D printer, so we'll design a case in Google SketchUp. We'll print the case, and we'll have it all into a case, like it's a product, the final product. We have these little, allows us to take a lithium-ion battery and put it into the little trinket, where we can run it off a trinket instead of that. Arduino, that little chip will do the same as the big one, and then we get our battery. So we can start miniaturizing these and still fit it into this little case. And then we can start integrating them. This is that same trinket, but with the wireless card built in, and the little LiPo or acceptor for we can run this right off the battery. And then there's little things called power boosters that give you a USB on the outside so you can plug in and charge it. So we can charge it, put it all in the case, charge up our battery, and keep on running these systems. So what happened was originally this all-wireless system didn't need any of that, and over 4 years it keeps on growing and growing and growing, and so we're finally getting close to building this, the timestamp with the cameras. They have these little wireless box, like a clicker, but instead of clicking and answering stuff, we're sliding up and down as how they elect the jury, and it'll be time-stamped with the video that we're recording at the same time. The screen will display all the videos. You pick one, and that's the video we've been time-stamped to.
Are you capturing it with the video? Is it part of the video file, this information
No,
from the slide?
this is running-
It's a separate file.
It's going to directly to a database, SQL database.
Okay, with the timestamp of the video.
Yep, so the first time it hits, what it does is it timestamps with the video and says, I'm starting now when the video starts. And so we can link up them 2 timestamps when we play back, and then pull the data out of the database, and when we play them back, we can display that on a graph. So underneath the video, we have a graph running, and it'll display where the value of these. These just send out an analog signal, 0 to 1, and everything between, so you get to basically 0 to 124 for 0 to 1, and we'll read right where that value is and store that in the database. So this is the project that starting to come back to, and get back to it. And a lot of these components up here are for it. So set up this table, and we'll like I said, we'll end it early that whoever wants to walk up and see this, ask questions about anything like that, you're more than welcome to. The other question I always get asked is, and a lot of these groups and stuff is, how would I take this and then turn it into a product? So if I wanted to make this not just this big Arduino or these little sets, how would I make it from this to an actual product, basically? So these have an Intel little processor chip on a microprocessor that you can actually purchase separate. This is a large version of it, and you can wire these up and program them completely separate without having an Arduino. So you can take the chip and just program your chip. Then you can take the schematics of the chip, and my background is not in electronics at all. So this is just what I've learned over time, history and law. So, and learn each one of these pins, what the input is, where you're reading it, and everything else. Run out schematics for these boards. Once you did that, you do something that's a perf board. A perf board is just a wafer that you can stick in, much like a breadboard, much like this, but thinner. But you're running actually all your capacitors, your resistors, and everything to run through it to build out the board in the circuit. Once you get a perf board done, and this is a very general overview, you can actually sketch that out into a circuit and actually sketch it out. And there's something very new on the market that just went through Kickstarter that's called a Volterio. And it is actually a circuit board printer. Now, you used to have to pay to get these PCB boards printed, or PVC, printed and then shipped to you, and then you could solder them, or you can actually do them yourself. Yeah, you used to do them many, many years ago yourself. So now you can actually just, and I don't know, can we grab that website? You can just load it in. There's two heads. One etches the board, and then one puts down paste. And then you put your little circuits on it, and then you do something called reflowing it that melts it all together. And now you have actually a circuit board the size you want, the design you want, and everything else. And then from that step, you really go to a company that does this and mass produce them. They'll take your circuit and tell you what it is to. So, scale it up. So, it's a neat little device, and it's a lot, but not a lot. It's $2,000. It's just like a 3D printer, kind of, but you actually put a board down there and you can print circuit boards. Etch it once, change the head, and then you run the paste over it.
Just in time.
Yes. So if any of you want to be my kid and buy me one, so this, I don't have one of these. I would like one of these. But I'm still doing it at this level. I haven't moved to try to move it into my own circuit. One day, maybe. Time gives away. That's it on that. Do you want to do the leap? Want to show the leap? So we play with a lot of technology too. And this is one of them that's been out for a little bit. I think a lot of people have purchased these but never really played with them or finished them. See if it picks up. Okay, so LEAP is just IR that reads your hand. So think of my R&D report. So he's not doing anything but putting his hand over these IRs, and he can move it, control it, spin it, touch it, point, and he tells them what it is. So this is just another little thing. The reason we looked at these is we're not a big fan of the touchscreen digital displays. We've had not really go out just to touch sometimes. So we looked at something more of, the displays are on this side as they're going. You can swipe over it and kick the message you want to read to this side, and it'll stay there for you can read it. Or if you want to scroll through them faster, you can put your hand over it, scroll through them. They still need a little bit of work. They're getting closer, but it's called a leap, and it just reads your hand movement that's over it. Eventually, I'm hoping they make a long bar that we could do in front of a screen and think like a minority report and just scroll and move everything around without having to touch it. And you could just add in a lot of stuff. I mean, a presentation, instead of having to click or anything, you just swipe and it moves on to your next slide or swiping back. So they're not too bad. They read the hand pretty good. It's very similar to what's in the Xbox One or the Xbox 360, the little lasers. Those are probably a little bit more developed than this is, but these are fairly cheap, and they've been putting them on sale, so we got one for $30, I think it was. Fun to play with, no real function yet. So, how are we doing on time? What questions do we have? We use Clio. Yeah. We do have a shared file that they'll use, but they're moving more and more Clio, because there's all kinds of issues about if it's on a university system and what's discoverable, so we've decided to slowly migrate everything to Clio, and they're in that process of now. So they're kind of doing, all the templates are out there, and now they're slowly moving documents for that. We did have, and our document managed for the cases was really just a tree or structure management before, so I think it'll actually make it better for searching and stuff in the long run. I don't know if it's a final solution, they're still working on it, but currently that's what they're gonna try for now. Other one too, yeah. Anything about technology, law school, we'll take it all. Yep. We are actually doing that right now, and is Michael Valton here? No. He sent out an email before, he's asking, because as I've talked to everybody, nobody's really happy about what Turning Point's doing right now. I don't know if you know or not, they're going to a cloud-based system, you can't use your other stuff. If you do, there's a $6 subscription fee, and they're changing the whole thing. So we are looking at iClicker. Doesn't integrate into Offices, as if I understand as much, but we're gonna give it a shot and see what it does. You can use your mobile phone, or you can buy the clickers for it. We are trying one for small seminars that you actually print off little cards. It's an online app. You hold them up, it's A, B, C, or D, and as you scan it with your ID, your phone, it reads them. It's a free app. You can do it, small seminar, under 20 people. But for those classes that want to do it that way, they're having that, and we have a faculty member trying that out. What's the name of that? Can't think of it. I'll remember by the end. So we're trying that, and then, what was the other one? One of our faculty found another one online that they're gonna try, that it's all online-based answer. It's Instant Poll CALI they're gonna try. But they didn't, the problem with the CALI one is they wanted something, the other day, they want to try out the CALI because they want to maintain the data. They want to store the data and keep it over long term without having to write it down. And iClicker does that, and the little card one you can register each person for. And that was the one thing about the CALI. So those are the three that we're gonna try. We are trying to expand our current clickers 3 to 5 years by keeping Office 2013 installed on the machines, so we can keep them for a couple more years until we find out what solution we are gonna do for the clicker technology at the school. I'm not a big fan of clickers, just because they're so expensive for what they are. I mean, if you break down the components, they're probably about $10, not even $7, $8 to build. So it might be something we look at doing that for too, I don't know.
Do they get a lot of use?
A group of faculty use them. Those 3 faculty use them almost every class. But that's it. I mean, we don't have the masses use them, but we do have 3 faculty that really like them, continue to use them. And one does CLEs for judges, and she takes them to all the CLE judges. So she really likes them. So we do have it where we need to support and give something, but it is not a widespread issue. And they're willing to work with us. So we're like, let's try this, let's try that. And first classes, we'll sit in with them and see how they work and what problems they have, and see if there's a solution for them. But yeah, it's enough use that we need to support them. That answers questions. We use SpiceWorks as a free one. SpiceWorks. Yep. Standalone install. You can even install it on a Windows 7 machine. It's a nice little ticketing machine system. You can make, and there's all kinds of little options for it. And that's what we use for IT, that they can put anything in, and you can tell it to kick them back and keep them updated on it. They can set up for they can log into it, or you can say it's just a ticketing system, everybody gets it. Really easy to use, free setup, and it's called SpiceWorks. Yep, it has its own little personal database, so you can take it and you can search your iCards and everything. So it works really well. We don't have any complaints about it, and it's free. So, SpiceWorks.
We use it too. We have a specific instance for faculty requests for our library research, our IT help desk, and we have facilities. We like it that much. The one, I don't know if you guys have gotten around this anyhow, but you can't run multiple instances on the same server. About
You have
pain?
to virtualize them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we do it
I've
on,
got 4 instances.
Yeah, but they're all on virtual.
Now, the one thing, the one caveat to pay attention to when you virtual burst is if you forward a ticket from one system to
Oh,
the
yeah.
other, it'll
Yeah.
bring back ancient tickets. We're at 100,000 tickets. Forward us a ticket, it takes their number, it pulls our ticket, our old ticket.
and that's when you're running multiple systems though.
Yeah.
And we virtualize it,
product.
and we'll put them on Windows 7 machines, so we don't have to have a server license or anything, you just run it on Windows 7 and it works fine. It is, we're,
Notifications.
yeah, yeah, everybody gets it. Our thing is we just create a rule on, our Outlook that says, you know, whether I put them in another folder and then I go through them, or when I need to, and the workers handle them. Yeah, I don't think inside the system you can really tell, you know, do they get an email every time, or do they get an email for a specific topic? It's very general, but it works well for what it needs to, for us. What other questions? We want to check out the table and ask questions about the individual devices. Anybody more than welcome to come up.
You said something about using the 3D for the
Yeah,
year. Do you have
yes.
any cases that you?
You know, I probably can't even see it in here. I have pictures of them. Let me think where I have pictures. And what we use is we use Google SketchUp. We use the free version, design our case, and then print them out of there. And we're getting a lot better at it. Our cases slide together now and stuff like that. I think I have the pictures of the old cases on here, but I should be able to. Oh, it'll take me just a minute. Actually, might be on this one. Never fast when you want them to be.
No.
So these were the first cases that we printed and set up. They've changed substantially because we no longer have the serial stuff. We created a little chip that we could replace all of this. So it's just Arduino, the much shorter, and the screen's integrated in on top of it actually now. So,
Did
but,
they print with the holes for the ports and stuff like that?
yep, you design it, you put all the ports in there and stuff, and it'll print a little webbing over there for it doesn't collapse during printing time. And then we print these out and they have a little cover for them. These ones, we put screw holes here, put a screw up there, and that way we could screw the top right on. But this was design 1, it's been changed quite a bit since then. But they work well. And we'll print other stuff for, you know, if Moot Court needs a knife for their trial or something like that, if they let us know, we'll go and print one out for they can use it for their mock trial or anything like that.
Or the okay.
Yeah, most of these are pretty, with these, yeah, I mean, this is fine. This is one that I forgot about, this is one we've been playing with. This is called Instamold. So this one's not fine with heat. It's about 130 degrees. You put it in hot water, 130, 150 degrees, let it sit for 3 months, or 3 months. 3 minutes, 3 minutes. You pull it out and it's malleable. You can bend it, shape it, whatever. And they're just little pellets, and you put color pellets into them, stir it up, and mold the color into them. And then you let it sit for about 30 to 40 minutes, and it's a solid piece of plastic. I mean, it's hard. They don't.
And what do you do with
Instant
them?
mold.
What do you do with them?
We are gonna make the little handles for our sliders and stuff like that to try with the instant mold, if we can pack it in and stuff like that. But that's little pellets, heat up to 130 degrees for 3 minutes, came out molded. They use that stuff a lot for co-play where they're building their own outfits and stuff like that, that they'll get the mat, mold and smooth it over.
Are
So,
they cheap?
It was about $25 for a good-sized bag of it.
So those were pellets before they were.
Yep, these are little tiny pellets the size of rice.
So does your 8-year-old and your 6-year-old?
They like to play with it, make stuff, and they're reheatable, so you can put that
So you
back
can
in
reuse it.
and play with it again. So it's like a Play-Doh that you can keep on heating up that turns out hard.
Where do you get it?
I buy them from Amazon.
Okay.
Oh, spelled that wrong.
Oh, it's great.
Mr. Morph. There it is. Moldable plastic.
That's so,
$17, that's a smaller bag, you can buy a bigger bag than that. It's fun to play with. The girls really like playing with it and making stuff. They think they're gonna come up with this perfect cat and stuff, but,
exactly.
it's a learning process. Yes. So the,
Locate them in.
depends on if they're
There's
putting,
something like that?
are they pushing the button on their device or your device?
That's what
That would be the challenge. If it is your device, it'd be easy because you know where that is. If it was their device, then you'd have to have them running some type of app or something with geolocation that you could identify with wireless or something like that about where they were. So doing their device would be a little bit harder, but not impossible. What do you think?
build it out.
What do I think?
Throw Raspberry Pis around
So,
or?
the way I would do it
Okay.
would be if you could roll, so, again, there's all these circumstances. If you're on your wireless network and you had access to your wireless, switches in real time, you could determine MAC associations with a logged in username. But honestly, I wouldn't spend time.
I don't think it'd be that hard.
It wouldn't be that hard, but you'd have to get your central IT, whoever's running your
You'd
wireless,
at
to
least.
let you do it. They'd have to be on Wi-Fi. If they were on LTE, you wouldn't get it.
You
Chris's suggestion would be the best, which would be to have an app. Have an app that all your patrons could use. And it could say request help, and then as long as it was running in app form, when they installed it, it would say this application wants access to GPS and location data.
Yeah.
However, I again think the app is kind of worthless because inside your building with GPS positioning, you're gonna have a hard time telling them where they are. Are they
Yeah,
on
but-
the fourth floor or are they on the
But you could make it simpler with that with a couple Raspberry Pis running iBeacon even.
Yes, you could have iBeacon running,
And that would,
then
you
have
could
better-
pinpoint them within 30 feet inside of any floor in
Hard
Florida.
light.
15.
Or 15 feet, yeah.
Couldn't you just use a sign saying, enter this code? You
Yeah.
know, and then-
Yeah. But then they have to,
Enter this code.
you have to do something. We want them not to do
Well,
anything.
They have to do it anyway to be on their device, is what I'm saying. I mean, I'm talking about using like an iPhone or
There's a
something
lot
like
of
that.
different ways to skin the cat.
Yeah,
I'll use
But if
that.
you just put a sign up, you can't buy a Raspberry Pi.
that might be like a 4-hour argument of what the best way to do it is. But there's definitely ways to do it and very capable of doing it.
It would be faster to just put student workers strategically.
So I'm curious if anybody else has a 3D printer, because I hadn't even thought about
Yeah.
that possibility, and,
So
it just sounds like really fun, but I'm not sure I could justify it.
I want to tell you how disappointed I am at John Marshall.
Chicago.
Atlanta. I came up on early Wednesday, couldn't get in the hotel because there was somebody leaving the hotel at that time and they had police blocking the street, so I went over to John Marshall Atlanta. And he was giving me a little tour when I was over there, and we went back into their network and storage area, and they have a 3D printer still in a box with stuff stacked on top of it that they have not opened or used in 8 months.
Anybody else have one, and if so, what do you use it for? The geek in me is thinking I need all this stuff, but I'm not
It holds
sure.
up the UPS.
No.
I mean, we do a lot of, all our digital signs, the backers that hold them and stuff, we printed all those. Every one of our study rooms have our scan systems that we printed all those. our little pieces on our tripods have busted, the little pieces that come apart. We 3D designed those and put them in and redid that. You gotta print them dense, but they work now. So whenever they bust, we keep that SketchUp in there and we reprint them.
Yeah, Tony is media services.
Little clips and stuff like that, if you can 3D design it in SketchUp, you can reprint them.
Do you have a image of your backplane, your digital signage?
I don't, let me see, I may.
I think that we should get one.
They said, what you do is towards the end of your budget year, you just list it as a printer, $3,000 MakerBot printer.
See there, right?
Just a printer. Well, you put that's what it goes to the server room, and only DT has access to it, but
Yeah.
that's what I did, it was last year, it was the end of last year's budget line, and I was just like.
How much do they cost?
I think mine was. Do a lot of things.
It depends on what it is.
Yeah,
There's tons of different models and everything else, different types. There's liquid one. The most prominent one is the MakerBot by far. The Replicator 2, I think it runs about 2,200, right in that range. That one, it depends on your plate size, heat. Now, the reason the MakerBot is probably the most prominent one is because it's so easy to use. You don't have, I have a Solo Doodle at home. That one I had to build, I put together and everything, but I have to use, you don't just load a graphic and hit print. You have to go and slice it, and you have to feed it into the system and stuff like that. The MakerBot's tied in with Thingiverse, which is where anybody can upload 3D sketches, and you can find any 3D sketch that you can imagine, little figures, Legos, everything. And so you can create an account up there, tie it in, and just drop stuff into your account, and then you just go to the printer, turn a dial, and hit print whatever you want. You don't even have to have a computer connected. It runs on the network. It has a camera that you can remotely watch what you're printing. So, I mean, a lot of the money that goes into the MakerBot is bells and whistles, really. But it's a reliable printer. It restarts. They're pretty solid. So I like them. They just cost more than most of the other ones. The fine detail ones are the new resin printers, but they're more, and it's expensive per print because it's a liquid resin, and a laser comes up on the bottom and it lifts it, brings it to the plate and lifts it, but they can do very, very fine detail. The laser is fine detail, which is very interesting. But they will start at $3,000. You can get them cheaper, but the resin is like $50 a bottle. And time you print, it takes a lot of that resin out. So there's a ton of them out there. SparkFun has them. All my stuff I buy at SparkFun, Seed, and Adafruit. So between those three stores is pretty much everything I get in Amazon for the weird stuff. So, any other questions or anything else? If not, we're done. If you still want to come up and look at this stuff, you are more than welcome. We'll answer any questions or anything else.
I do have another question.
Sure.
What are you driving your signs with? What kind of software?
We use the Raspberry Pi.
So you got Raspberry Pi is the hardware. What software are you using? I mean, what are you displaying? I mean,
Oh, we we have an ASP website behind. I'm a C# developer by nature, so I wrote ASP pages. And the way we run it is the Raspberry, when it boots up, it pulls its MAC address, it passes it up, and the server responds
Yeah,
back
it's just
and
a
says,
sensor there.
oh, this is MAC address so-and-so. So
You
it
can
passes
mess with it
back
if you want.
what sign ID it is, and then it puts in a request, what sign ID should be pulled. So we put the same image of every one of them, but identifying by the MAC address, and where it's at, what it should be pulled, and stuff like that.
so it's always constantly pulling it from a server. Constantly pulling the new whatever. And so whenever you add something in,
Yep,
it
it
just
automatically
pops up.
refreshes it. It puts a random number on the end of it every time it pulls, so you don't get any cache or anything like that.
You guys have that constant expire. So
Looks like it is.
Yeah, so what happens is we have a portal and anybody can go in,
These are stackable,
log
actually.
in, and put
So that's
stuff in
the
the
battery
portal, and they'll
portion?
submit it,
You see how the plugs
Somebody
there?
approves it,
Those are actually made so,
and then it's up on the system.
you know, this
And
would
they
be your
put it,
second
I
board,
wanted
and
a
then your
screen
USB
1,
board,
5, and
and
8,
they're just
and then it'll show
stackable
up on those screens only.
instead.
And
Here's
then
your
we have the left side and
processor,
the right
which will
side.
go on
The
top,
right
and the
side
battery
we've
will
got
always
set
go
where events
on the
happen,
other
and
end.
that's just 48 hours. Or
Yeah.
if there's none
I mean, it's,
in 48
It's
hours.
all
it's
Arduino
next 3
stuff,
events.
right?
yes. This is an Intel version.
Yep.
We just got into
You've
it.
always got current content up
You,
there.
you
that's
find that
for-
Arduino
And
is
then we have what's
preferable
called,
to
what we call,
Raspberry Pi?
did you know? So we have
mess
all these
around with
little
them a
history
whole lot, to be
facts,
honest
or kids in schools are called, did you know? And if the sign count was under a certain thing, did you
Raspberry
know?
Pi is right here. I think this is the older one. This is 2. They're on 3 or 4 now.
Yep, so then we pull them out of that database.
So I just wanna say I have to step up my game because I have an 8-year-old granddaughter and I
Yeah, this is a pod.
or, you know, like these silly little child games.
self-contained
that your
little,
children are.
This is the
takes a lot
basic
of
one.
time.
USB.
So-
Some have wireless built into. It just
I would
depends what
just
you want
like
to
to
spend it
introduce
on.
that I'm the grandmother. That's fun.
It's got everything in there, right? The processor,
Although I am gonna buy them.
basically, you can literally plug
Yep.
a monitor into it.
SD card with whatever program you want to run or whatever, you know, instructions for it to hold static. Because once it loses power, you have a program on it, so wipe it if you don't have any storage on it.
Right.
I was plugging his lead. Is it plugged?
Oh, this is an older one. Like I said, they have. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really. I know about them, but
Really cheap.
yeah, they're not that.
Designed for, you know, for people to get right into it, especially for kids. It's like $30.
It depends what you get on the board. I think is where the cost goes up.
So with that, you can build,
You can build the screens like he was building. This is what he was running with the screens.
even the digital screen.
Yeah, what they would do is because this is what the digital screen looks like. Sometimes we'll find is then you would do your jumpers to whatever the jumpers on here would be. And that's how it was.
So what kind of motions? I know you can point and you can do this. What kind of, is there any other really?
Not really, I mean, you can go
I
up
think
and
this is
down,
the touch one.
left and right, and then
one of these
it
is a
still has
touch.
some problems with like if I close them all, but if I lift out 2 real quick.
Yeah, it's got two.
So, I mean, these are my emotions, and really what I'm looking at for
Well, this
this,
is
I'd like it to be
alternative to
bigger so I
going
can
shopping
do
around
slide,
companies.
slide,
For
and up and down.
people that
And that's
have
really all
already
I
product.
want
This is more.
What about like if you had the ability to like use your finger to like highlight, to annotate?
So you can do that now.
You could probably. The biggest thing with any of this is the time you want to invest.
So you just put your hand over this little
But, and the thing is that you're learning an awful lot about how things work, which is great, right?
Because it's not just, you know,
How much was
plug
that?
it in and it works. It's
Right,
like,
right.
you know, this is a power, that's a power, in case that power goes down, you know, there's a ground.
Nice.
here. This is your wireless, you know.
How do you know what all these ones are?
Usually they're labeled, because if you look close on here.
Yeah, have you been able to use it to actually advance slides and stuff?
You know, we want this, what happened was
Slots over here, like there's 3.5 volts, there's 5 volts.
part of it
This is just a mock-up. I think he was working on it.
There's a little RGB chip. It's a little red one in the bake still.
Yeah,
If it
yeah, it displays yellow and blue.
I mean,
He didn't have it up there, it was a That's it. So he was talking about using it for a slider project.
What is lead in, so you should like walk into it like this, slide hand, got it, flip it, turn it.
Yeah, I mean, in the slider, he's probably
So
gonna have
this is the
maybe.
chip that really runs it, this is why I was interested in it. And we can program this chip and it just reads the RGBs with infrared right off these. So ideally what we could do is put these in a bar and make larger ones.
Not necessarily, some of them
But I
have
want
built
to
in,
understand
not necessarily the operating system, but
Well, smartphone was running these and they was running CLM, so we were buying our stuff and we got to throw
usually
that in
software
there.
on
Just a
them.
couple pieces. Once I get time, we can play with it, kind of reproduce
Basically,
that.
you can just add
Thank you.
like right here, this is where you put your SD card, or whatever program you want to use.
stay over there. Okay.
We use Linux at my place. Because we're messing with the Raspberry Pis, because right now our lenses, which is our display system for what's going on in the law school and all that, it's run on towers.
They need a little
Old towers that you just pull out of classrooms or whatever. that don't do much anything else but take up space in storage. So we're looking to go from that to, Raspberry Pi, something small,
So these are the
behind
kids
the
now.
screen that hooks into a wireless. Because all we're doing is pushing web business.
Is it?
Yeah.
I bet it is.
Zenith bought them at one time. It was using them as an educational institute. But
Thanks,
now
Chris.
it's back in business.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Good. This one right here has 4 gigs memory on it, 1 gig of RAM, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and it's a dual core processor. That's a dual core processor.
How much is that?
These ones are about $60. The Edison's are about 60. So, but you can do, the first thing that they advertised, they had a company say, make something cool with these. So they built a onesie, and this little thing was inside the frog. And out came these little things that looked like lily pads, and what they were is sensors. They had a heartbeat sensor on it, they had a breathing sensor on it, and what they're trying to do is detect kids with SIDS, and then they could shock them a little bit or make a motion to wake them up to hopefully get rid of SIDS. But that little thing could process all the data and send it to their parents' phone through Wi-Fi, so you can always log in and see how kids breathe in and track that if you need to, or get alarms if there's something irregular with the pattern. So, and it's really, I mean, it's not a hard project. They've really made it a lot easier.
Right,
You gotta start by knowing something before you start.
Start, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, and how I did it is,
Sales side.
Well, now,
Arduinos-
the company I was telling you about, it used to be Lafayette. They went out of business. They used to sell the etching kits, so you could etch your own boards. And you get the etching solution and the
You did that?
master. Yeah, I
Now
used
we
to
just
make circuit boards like that. Now you just
so
print
how I learned is these little Arduinos, they're $25, $18, somewhere in that range. You can buy knockoffs and stuff. But they have a whole set of things on their web pages about how to get the little LED on it to blink, and then how do you add another LED, and then how do you put a button on it to send a signal to light up this LED.
Oh, okay.
So they have all these little lessons they learn in the program
by
these.
step.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, and they're made for people learning them, and they're starting to do a lot of kids lessons and stuff like that, these pins cover. But that's a Ethernet one. I don't use too many Ethernet ones. It just happened to be what I grabbed. This is Ethernet with PoE on
I
it.
used to make those circuit boards. Etching kit, you couldn't get it on.
These are touch, sensitive touch, so like the old iPods and stuff, we spun them. So we looked at, instead of doing sliders like this, would somebody rather hold something in their hand and just slide their finger, but we found out no. They rather actually physically hold on to something, yep. And here, they want to, but I haven't finished it. So we're pushing to get it done. It's been a long, ongoing project. I'm getting closer. Yep.
Appreciate it, great
Yep.
This stuff.
Just switches, dials, what are they actually called? Pedometer or what's the actual name?
Potentiometers.
Potentiometers, there it is. So it's just a radio dial. I like the easier words.
It's just an adjustable resistor.
Yeah.
It's a slider.
Like a
Slider just.
rheostat on a,
Exactly.
Light, okay, I got you,
Exactly.
okay.
It's a rheostat. That's another name for it.
So just,
Yeah.
you put a knob on it and make it,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same thing as this, but
Yeah, it's just the same.
turn
thing.
it instead of sliding it.
Instead of sliding.
Why do you have so many?
When you buy them in bunches like that. So if I bought one,
cheaper, yeah.
if I bought one, it would cost me about $3. If I bought a whole pack like that, it'll cost me about $9. So,
And then the next time he needs one, you don't have to go back and buy it. So you already got it.
I call you.
It's easy. You just dip in your toolbox.
Thanks a lot,
and
guys.
if we tried to make something with spin, we want to make 10 of them or something like that for the
Yeah.
lessons.
No idea.
The little mini Arduino.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's,
y'all.
So there's a
Oh,
couple.
take care.
This one is called a Nano Arduino. This is called, this is from Adafruit, and it's called a Hazua, and it's a Arduino it's running 8 megahertz with wireless. This is the same thing, but it doesn't have wireless on it.
Yeah, that's
but running 8
Now, this is the
megahertz.
one
That's the lead.
Yeah.
Bluetooth.
How much is
Oh,
this little?
leapfrog.
No, just lead.
Leap motion.
wireless.
Okay.
$22 with the wireless. The hard
Interesting.
itself fast.
bad.
You can
I'm a big
find,
fan of the pies, though. But your idea with the slider and everything, it's perfect to have something tiny to go with it, you know?
yep. You don't wanna carry a pie and a slider on top of it because
Right.